Hi, everyone. This is Chris Murdock. This is Recruiting Connections with me. I want to welcome today's guest, James Ellis. James, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll jump right into the conversation.
Sure. I'm James Ellis. I'm the employer brand nerd. I don't say that because it's a term I picked for myself. Literally, if you Google who is the employer brand nerd, Google says, here's a picture of this guy, and it's this face. So I don't know what that's about. So I love employer brand. So I've been doing it for, I guess, 8 or 9 years now. So I'm fascinated with the subject. I love it, and I love talking about it and getting people excited about it.
Well, and what's interesting, you say that, we met in kind of the green room at a conference here in Nashville. That was the first time we'd ever connected. And all I remember, like, my first impression of you was, wow, you really dork out on employer branding. Like everything that I started asking, you're like, you would just jump out of your skin. It's like me talking about food or my daughter or my wife. It just jumped out of your skin. You're like, I want to talk about this subject.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a disease at this point. There's something wrong with me. It's just, I've decided to use it. That's all,
Well, that's great. That's great. So with this whole theme of connections, why are we talking? Why did I reach out to you to talk about, connections with regards to employer branding?
You're going to blame me for this?
I'm blaming you for this conversation.
Wow. What a turnaround. Is this what you get for friends? Okay, fine. No, I think it's a fascinating idea. I think the word connections is one of those things where you can apply it in so many different directions. And I think the second you said it to me, I thought how employer brand connects to every other function in the team or every function in the company. Like, there are very, very few other functions in an organization that have such kind of tendrils and reach into every piece of the company. And to me, that's both the challenge and the strength and the weakness of employer brand, right? This idea that first off, you have to understand that everything is your employer brand. So when you make a great product and everybody loves it, good for your employer brand. Your customer service is a bunch of jerks and they do everything they can to never give you your money back. Bad for the employer brand. Your CFO grabs the CEO's butt and that's on the news and it's a scandal. That's bad for the employer brand. If your CEO screams at a customer on video, I wonder who I could be talking about. That's bad for the employer brand. Like, it's all that stuff is interconnected, product and project and customer service and recruiting, of course, right? Recruiters have a great impact on that. And the thing is, if you are ostensibly in charge of your employer brand, but you know that your employer brand comes from all those things, how does that work, right? You are responsible for everything, but you are accountable for a lot of it, but you also have no authority over any of it. So to me, the power of employer brand comes from the connections you make with other teams and informing them and getting them excited to understand how their decisions impact that employer brand, which therefore impact the entire business.
And so it's interesting you say that. So you have the overall employment brand, and then you have all these sub brands that pop up. And so, how do you reconcile, say, Glassdoor, let's use Glassdoor. It's sure. Usually it's the bane and boon.
Yes.
So you have the engineering department that doesn't know how to recruit.
Yeah.
You have the sales department that knows how to recruit, or vice versa. I'm not going to pick on engineering or sales, but just say in this example, you've got one group knows how to recruit, but because of the negative reviews from engineering, on the engineering side, it is affecting their score. It's affecting all of these things. How do you reconcile that? Like, how do you take this good experience over here and try to replicate it over here?
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, I've worked in companies where the customer service team hated their lives. They were, and let's be fair, customer service is never the best funded and the best resource teams in the world, right? They're always kind of the caboose at the end of the resource train, right? And they're always, okay, how do we squeeze more out of you without giving you any money? So you never see, except maybe Zappos, I guess, you never see positive reviews from the customer service. A great customer service review is usually, it's all right, it's fine, I guess, it's a job. And you're like, hey, okay, cool. But in a lot of companies, you have a lot of customer service, just a sheer volume of people and their desire to, having a bad day, Glassdoor, comparably, going to complain on those sites. Whereas an engineer have an okay day, may not be inclined, may not think to do it, may not care. And so your quote unquote rating, which I think we could do a whole day on how insane that is influenced more by these lower usage, less, hard, easier to hire, different kind of roles.
High volume recruiting typically.
Exactly. So you have to, first off, I think most people, especially if you're talking to people who are in lower volume hiring, people who are different kind of talents, who are skilled, in a very different way, they know to look at Glassdoor. They don't go, oh, it's a 3.2, that's bad. They go, oh, filter, give me something. Or they skim looking for a review that sounds like, oh, good, they mentioned that team, I think I'm going to go on. And honestly, I think Glassdoor is the tip of the spear. I mean, 10 years ago, this was incredibly useful information. We had zero visibility into most of these companies. Today, it's like saying, okay, you can only get your milk delivered by glass bottle, at your front door. It's like, it feels very antiquated to think about information in this. Here's the one place you can go, and it comes in these tiny little boxes. There's so much information. Just, Twitter itself, you can tweet, or LinkedIn, ping these people who work there and say, what's the straight dope? And I think people who are talented and have value in a way that a company desires, they know to do their due diligence and say what's going on. But that says you're 100% right. There are microcultures throughout the entire company. Like, if you want to position yourself as being incredibly innovative and you want to show off your engineers, splitting atoms or what cold fusion or whatever they do, I don't know, right? Mitochondria stuff. And your legal team exists, but no one says legal, innovative, right? Those two words don't usually equate themselves, but you want to paint this kind of picture of we're a very innovative company. Everybody understands that it's relative to the culture. Everyone knows that an innovative engineering company should be splitting atoms and investigating DNA and stuff like that. And that innovative legal teams are not going to be doing those things. In fact, they're going to be very, very conservative in their sense of innovation, but maybe they deliver it at a different speed or a different way. I think people know how to read into the microculture, right? If you're a salesperson, you say, oh, it's a very conservative space. It still means quarterly parties when you hit your numbers. It still means the stuff that salespeople expect. HR, when they say conservative, and what does conservative for HR look like? Like how conservative can you get, right? Everyone knows how to do it relative to that microculture.
Yeah, okay. I called it sub, but microculture, employment branding and culture go very hand in hand. We see this with our clients here at IQTalent. One of the things that we try to do is we hire very empathetic people. Yeah. That's part of our brand. We want people who are authentic. We want people who want to excel and want to be efficient, but also at the same time they want to grow. Most of our recruiting is referrals. 75% of our new hires in the last 12 months, 75% were referrals. Siblings, significant others, parents.
Significant others is like the KPI. Like if I can't imagine the handful of things in the universe I would refer my wife to. Like that would just if I'm wrong even a little bit, it's like, oh, that's a bad idea. So if I'm referring my wife to somebody, that's a heck of a KPI.
Or you have somebody that works in the building who said, I think my daughter hates her job. I think she would be great. Like, I think she would love this. And she's doing really, really well. I was in Austin. One of our recruiters and I were standing in line at Franklin Barbecue. This is in 2018. We're on our way to Nashville. We stopped off in Austin just to hang out while our stuff moved. And this woman walked up and said, I hear you're a recruiter in Nashville, because I'm loud. But the thing was, I was very, very open and honest and just talking to everybody around me. And ultimately she said, you sound like it would be a company that my daughter might want to work for. Yeah. And her daughter was right there. And ultimately I get an email saying, hey, I start Monday, like 2 years later. So she was in one of the first classes after we started hiring again after the lockdowns. Yeah. And she's done very well. And it's because I made sure that in a micro event, our employer brand was front and center, which is the heart and soul. We've got to show that we care about our people. We got to care about our candidates. We got to care about our clients. And so part of our employer brand, it's just that connection.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Employer brand, I mean, a lot of people, especially if you're not in employer brand, TA leadership and CHROs and CPOs, right? They tend to paint employer brand with a big broad brush. Okay, let's get our Glassdoor score up. Okay, let's make a new website. Okay, let's make a ton of videos. check, done. And you're like, no, that is a way to make a claim of what your employer brand is. But the proof is in the nitty gritty. In fact, it's a brand done well is kind of a fractal, right? The closer you get to it, the more it's truly that thing, right? You've seen that triangle. The more you look at the triangle, it still continues to be yet another triangle. That's the employer brand, right? If you say you're empathetic and you care about your people, and it's a great billboard and a great website and a great, tweet or whatever, but the paperwork is onerous. Oh, well, how much do you really care? It's the details that prove the claim. The claims are easy to make. I can claim I can dunk on LeBron. I can claim all that all day. I can do it. I can claim I can dunk on him while holding a donut. I can't prove it to save my life, but it's easy to make claims. It's the proof, and that happens in the super, super nitty gritty details.
When I worked at Yahoo, they recognized at one point I don't know if we had Glassdoor then or not in 05, 06. But it became apparent that some groups knew how to hire, others didn't. Applicant flow was really bad on some and really good in other areas. And they came up with this whole idea of one Yahoo, and it was posters everywhere. And it was actually an attempt to bring us all together and make it stop being these little fiefdoms. And it worked.
It can work. It really can. However, the real nuts and bolts of that is getting people to let go of their little fiefdom a little bit to embrace the larger good and embrace that larger brand. And I've seen companies do it, and I've seen companies fail at it. So it sometimes it's just a poster you stick on a wall, and sometimes it's truly how you change your culture and your DNA.
Well, that's that. And the thing is, because I got to witness it from rollout, inception to rollout to reality, and the reality stuck. We brought that over. Like, so I've spent I haven't worked at very many companies, but the companies I've worked at were pretty, were great at what they did. And so I tried to pull that in, but also I wanted to build the same company that I could care about. And I think as you're building a company, as you're building a brand, as you're building an organization, a division, a functional area, I think whoever's leading it, how do you get them? So you as the employment brander, somebody wants to affect some change. They come in, they're new. Let's say they're new to an organization or new to that leadership role, and they know that they've got problems. How do they partner? How do they connect with you as an employment brander and a brand expert? And then how do you take that information to help them affect change?
Yeah, in reality, it never works that way. Usually it's the recruiters just kind of going, oh, I can't believe, how am I going to, this is a nightmare. This is, nothing's moving. All my recs are stuck. The pipeline is dry. I mean, what am I going to do? And I kind of go, can I jump in? Can I have a conversation? And usually when that happens, I'm like the weapon of last resort, right? I am like, I don't know, maybe employer brander, because no one knows, outside of most recruiters, no one knows what employer brander is. So that hiring manager knows not to ask me for help because they don't know that I exist. So I walk into these meetings, and sometimes the recruiter kind of says, this guy's going to help, or sometimes I just go in clean. And it's really about understanding two things at the same time. One, what is the overall brand message? And these are big, big, broad, bulky, abstract ideas, innovation or commitment or one, whatever, it is big ideas. And then how do I say, okay, how do you run your team? How does your team work? How does your function build? And how do I connect those dots? Because ultimately, I can't have them running a rogue brand that has nothing to do with the larger scope. Every team is a pillar to the larger brand. And if I get 2 or 3 pillars over here, it's like, you might as well be in a separate company. Not only are you not doing yourself any good, you're actually undercutting all work everybody else is doing. So everybody has to be aligned to a couple of core ideas. But how they manifest those ideas in their own particular world. If you're talking to content marketers, if you're talking to lawyers, if you're talking to nurses, you're talking to whatever, the same idea will manifest itself in very different ways, right? That sense of innovation or conservatism, on these different teams will manifest differently. The question is, how do we say, can you align to these bigger ideas, but also how do you localize it to make sense for you? And that is interesting because you get to say, tell me more, and you get to listen to their stories, and this is what the jobs are about, this is what the impacts are going to be, and this is how how we're growing, or what kind of, what's the bigger picture? And then you start to connect the dots. And usually it's a game of repeating what they said with a tiny spin. Because let's be fair, if they're in this company, it's not like they're making a brand new company. It's not like they're making it out of whole cloth. They exist within the whole, and they know that. They're just trying to give it a sense, that give their facet of that particular gem a shape, a sense of itself. And so all you have to do is repeat what they're saying with that tiny little twist, maybe insert a few words that connect to that larger. They go, yeah, that makes sense. Write it up. And suddenly that's the job posting, the social media content, the referral content. Like, you just want to connect that dot. An employer brand isn't something you just say, it's something that grows over time. You have to take a long view of that and say, everybody I meet in a company, it's how do I get you to carry this banner in your particular shape, but in the same direction with everybody else. Otherwise, it's just chaos and it doesn't work.
Yeah. And then, then everything kind of breaks down and everybody starts working against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting that you talk about the pillars, so, and I think when you build a house, and you've got load bearing walls that can't be moved, but you've got decorative walls, you've got that you can put in place, decorative pillars. So there are core, there are things that are core that can't be moved, that can't be changed. But then there's like other pillars that can be inserted, but you've got the overall picture. Okay, now I totally get it. Because I pictured a house and and all these different things.
Exactly right.
We've been watching a lot of home remodel stuff.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah. No, and you think about it as a foundation. The foundation you pour dictates the shape and height of the house on top of it. It doesn't dictate the wallpaper you choose or the layout, but it dictates how tall can you build this thing. So a lot of what I do isn't really seen. It's not really obvious stuff, right? The fact that everybody is using the same 3 or 4 words, it's because I've planted those seeds, but I'm not the one making them sprout. You're creating that environment so that they can say what they need to say in a way that makes sense for them, that they internalize it so it's not just a bunch of minor birds and parrots saying the same, hashtag line, the tagline every single time. It's about how does this make sense for the microbiologist and how does this make sense for the data scientist, but still work at the same company and make any kind of sense together.
Yeah, it's so interesting because when we think about when we pitch our services, we talk about how we augment our clients' in-house recruiting teams. That's our mission. That's our goal. So the more information that they share with us in the intake meetings and all the meetings, the more information we have, the more we can understand their employment brand and their culture. We refer to it as culture. But a lot of companies call it, like the employment brand and the culture are synonymous.
The value proposition, the value promise, the brand promise, all that stuff they're not completely interchangeable, but they overlap so much that I completely buy what you're saying here.
And so what we do is we often ask, well, what's the messaging that works for you when your recruiters are sending out outreach to passive candidates? What's the messaging that works? And a lot of times we don't have any messaging that works. Yeah. We're always, doing this, doing that. And so one of the things that we do a lot of is we do A/B testing to see what will work. And we'll take the information, the inputs. And I think a lot of times people don't know how to translate their employer brand, their culture into a short email that will hook someone in. What are some strategies on how to distill that employer brand, that / culture into 3 sentences? How do you do that? How do you prioritize what you share in those initial emails that you're sending to passive candidates?
Okay. So you've got, any company there isn't a brand because the brand exists in other people's heads. What you're really talking about here, these are your claims. These are the things you care about. These are the values that you offer a candidate, right? The employee value proposition. And you might have a brand with 2 or 3 or 5 pillars or whatever. What you want to do is say, what do you think is the idea? And these are very broad ideas. It is opportunity or autonomy or safety and security or being collectively, working together in a collaborative environment. There's probably about 9 or 10 big chunky ideas. Okay. The problem is most people want to jump ahead to what's the tagline? Like, no. What's the core underlying fundamental thing that you offer candidates? Is it a salary? Is it a paycheck that cashes every 2 weeks or is it, my favorite go-to and my favorite kind of, straw man to beat up his, well, everybody here they're great people. Like, yeah, every company says that. And company can say that. In fact, my feeling is the companies who are the worst, they can say that the most, because when you're in that foxhole mentality, you learn to bond real well when your boss is horrible and the company is just a nightmare, right? So that's got to throw that away. It's got to be about what is the motivation your company is rewarding and serving. So you care about achievement, right? You're in sales. It's about me. It's about do what you got to do to close that deal. And that doesn't mean all salespeople are like that. There are plenty of salespeople where it's collective, communal. We're going to work as a team. We're going to see the big picture. It's going to be very strategic. But if you say you're collective and strategic, but you reward the individual for the win, guess what? What you reward is what you value. That means you value individual achievements. You have to make sure those two things and two ideas are connected. Second, how do you can't really kind of, in the same way that I can't prove to you that I'm funny or tall, right? Or I can't just say it. I can't say it like over and over again. You go, what is going on? You can't say you offer impact. You can't say you offer opportunity. You have to give them the hook. You have to let them nibble it, and then you have to give them stuff to prove the case. Otherwise, you're just a salesperson. And by salesperson, I mean like a used car salesperson. I mean like, yeah, it's great. It runs great. Like you have to give them just enough for them to go, oh, that's interesting. Like I always joke that half of my job is making strangers go, oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that, right? That's all you're trying to do. Consider this company, consider this idea, consider this opportunity. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Once you have their attention and get them to nibble on the hook, you have to feed them. So yeah, that email is a subject line. And let's be fair, the subject line is super powerful because it gets them to read the email. And the email is only there to get them to look at the job posting or look at the video or look at the blog post or look at the whatever. And that is there to get them to look at the thing, which is in turn, If you think you can email a total stranger and get them to apply for a job, you're insane. And I can prove this. Go outside wherever you are in a group of people and pull your wallet out and pull out a $20 bill. And hand it to a complete stranger. Say, would you like this $20 bill? You'll be stunned how many people go, whoa, what is going on here? They will back slowly away like you're a complete lunatic, right? There's a trick, like they're looking for cameras. What is going on? And you're going, but it's a $20 bill. It's authentic. It's real money. You can spend it like cash because that's exactly what it is. Why wouldn't someone take it? It's because the context is wrong. And recruiters forget this all the time. They just look at this amazing opportunity and go, why wouldn't the world want this? And they say, do you want it? And people go, who the heck are you, buddy? You're a total stranger. We have no relationship. And the context is wrong. So the answer to a good in-mail or a good email or a good outreach is give them the hook. Let them learn about you, let them learn about the company, let them see and let them find their way. Make a clearly lit path to the place you want them to go, but you cannot drag them there and you cannot pick them up and put them there. You have to let them find it. And along that entire path are all these messages that align to that brand, that prove the claims that email or that subject line made about how you're very innovative or how you're whatever. And they go, okay, I'm starting to get a sense of it, the shape of it, how real this might be. I'm gonna go outside and validate it. But I'm also going to say, okay, this is now, I'm suddenly actively thinking about this. And that's exactly where recruiters want people to be.
And it's interesting you say that. Well, quick side note, we had just moved to Nashville, and somebody at Publix wanted to give Ella a sticker. Just one of the employees wanted to give her a sticker.
Yeah, your kid? Yeah, okay.
But the thing is, he asked my wife, can I give her a sticker?
Correct.
And her first response was, what do you want? And he just looked her right in the eye and he said, I want to give your daughter a smiley face balloon sticker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the thing is, because she didn't see the sticker, absence of all the context.
Yep.
It was interesting.
And that's the thing is recruiters should feel like the opportunity they have in front of them is the opportunity of a lifetime. I want every recruiter to go, oh, this could change your life, friend. This is an amazing thing. Yeah. This is going to make your dreams come true. I want them to feel that, but they have to temper that with a sense of, I have to parcel this out slowly. I can't give somebody treasure. They won't pick it up. You have to get them excited. You have to think about the treasure and understand who they are and validate a little bit of a relationship to say, look, I'm not just some crazy person. I am a recruiter. I work for this company. This is, oh, you've never heard of this company. This is what they do. And they've been around for 8 years and blah, 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 blah. It takes time. And everybody and every hack and every book and every website is trying to, how do we shortcut this process? I promise you, the person who succumbs to your weird hacks and shortcuts is not the person you want to hire. Not even close. You want the person who does their due diligence. You want the person who's a little skeptical. You want the person who goes, okay, I get offered all sorts of stuff all the time. Why you? And listens. That's the person you probably want to hire.
I do recruiting for IQTalent. I'll reach out. We have a role open or something, and I'll reach out. The candidates that typically respond to me here in Nashville, especially, we have HubSpot. So I put their name into HubSpot, and the next thing you know, I can see them downloading things. I can see them looking at pages.
It's a journey.
and they haven't responded yet.
Nope.
And so you can see all these different things. So I know exactly what this person is trying to make sure that what I said in my email is publicly out there. They probably go look at my LinkedIn profile. They want to see what articles I'm publishing. I'm on Twitter.
Yep.
They're probably, they are checking me out just as much as I'm checking them out before I reach out.
As they should. And I know that like Clinch has data that shows that the candidates and the prospects who do that research, who watch your videos, who read your stuff, they aren't just the ones more likely to apply. They're actually the ones who are more likely to hire, right? They've done the research. They aren't just choosing a job. They are choosing your job, this job. They're being very specific. You don't want someone who just hits apply for the sake of hitting apply. They don't want any job. You want them to want this job, which means getting them to understand what this is, but also the company, the circumstance, the context, yada, yada, yada. They need to see the bigger picture, and that takes time.
And in that research, if you start to notice, this is something we do, if you're getting a bad response rate, like we're talking less than 10%, try to figure it out, reverse engineer it. And so I'll tell the team, Google the company name. Just do it. Yep. Just do a quick Google search. Google the CEO. Yep. Google the CEO. Google all these different.
What's
things.
It like to work at blank?
Yeah, and sometimes it goes to Glassdoor, or sometimes you find a Forbes article about the founder.
Yeah, which may or may not be good.
Which happens to be in the top 5 results when you Google the company name because it's a Forbes article. Yeah. So how do you? It's always easy to talk about when somebody's got a great brand.
Oh yeah.
When you have a client, or you work for a company where there's been some negative stuff, and it's very visible when you do a Google search. How do you get ahead of it? So my usual thing is if their company is actually trying to change things and that person's no longer there, that's easy enough to explain. Yep. Hey, we're going through a transition. Our previous blah, 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 resigned.
That's a known situation. We've settled it. We fixed it. We've made, yeah, exactly.
Do you recommend that we actually address it head on in that initial email?
Oh, absolutely. Maybe not in their initial email, but you can kind of give it a head nod, kind of say, yeah, we know, let them figure it out, right? Let them know, because if you say, here's all the information, we predicted all your questions, and here they are. Again, that's like giving somebody $20 bill. They're gonna go, what is this? You got to parcel it out. And you got to kind of say, okay, we know that the next thing they do once they get this email is go to this, and this is what they learn. Maybe you program, your CRM to say, okay, 4 hours after you send that first email, and when they trigger that open, send this other email and say, hey, look, just so you know, blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's ways of doing it, right?
Yeah.
To me, there is no such thing as a bad employer brand. There is a bad fit, but not a bad employer brand. So everybody remembers Goldman Sachs was in the news this winter for, they work their junior analysts to death. They work 100 and 110 hours a week. They're showering in the bathrooms and the sinks, right? Oh, it's a horrible place to work. And the truth is, and everybody employer brand seemed to go, oh, this could be too horrible for their employer brand. I was like, no, that's not true at all. Every single person who was working 100 hours knew what they were doing. There was a value proposition. If you exchange your 20s to us, we will make sure you're a millionaire by the time you're 32. If you give us all this time and energy and passion and focus it and just nuke, a couple of years of your life, we make sure you'll never see the inside of coach class ever again, right? This is the value proposition. For people who want to be rich, yes, it should be hard. It should be hard. And this is a way to become rich. And there is a certain kind of person, neither good nor bad, a certain kind of person who goes, yes, take 8, 10, 12 years of my life, make me a millionaire. Done. Simple as that. What does it take? Let's go. And there are people who say, that's a horrible idea. And they will never like working at that company. That's just natural. So it's not about good brand and bad brand. It's about what's a good fit. The post office is the worst employer brand in the world. No one wants to work there, except there are people who do. There are people who like that sense of at 5 o'clock, I'm done, right? I can just go, drink beer or write poetry or whatever the heck I want to do. My life is my own. At 5 o'clock, I stop thinking about work. I also know that I don't have to worry about politics because my next raise and promotion is based on a test score. Oh, this is a whole different thing. There are people who love that. It is their dream job. So don't say it's bad. It's just say it's bad for that person. So what you need to do to get your employer brand right is to know who you're good for. right? Your favorite shoes, your favorite car, your favorite brand is not for everyone. Nike is not for everyone. Some people love Adidas. It's neither good nor bad. It's simply they're there for a different kind of person. So understand your audience. Understanding it, first off, unless you're Google or Amazon, really, you don't need to hire 4 trillion people this week. You need to hire 12 this month or 100 this year. Now do the math. Assume you need 50 applicants per. You only need to make 5,000 people fall in love with you. Out of the 8 billion people who exist on the planet, that's a really easy thing to do. That means you're talking to like left-handed furry fans who are based in Texas. I mean, you're talking about a niche of a niche of a niche. 5,000 people to fall in love with you? Easy. You just have to focus on them. The trick is most people don't go, oh, I want to focus on that niche. They say, I want everyone to love me. Yeah, but everyone's not going to be happy with you. So don't try and be fans with them. Figure out what you offer, who's going to love what you offer, and focus on the fit, not on the big idea, not on the big score or anything. It doesn't work that way.
I think that's the mic drop. I think that's the mic drop, man.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, James, I really appreciate you taking the time this morning. That was great. I think that is like the perfect end to this podcast. It's like you don't have to. Not everyone has to like you. Like
no. Yeah, it's not like I always say that there are people who think Chris Helmsworth is the hottest person. He wins the People's Sexiest Man of the Year every year, and I know people who find him unattractive. Are they bad people? Are they wrong? No, they like something else, and it's totally fine. If you're not Helmsworth and you're Benicio del Toro, there are people who think you're the hottest thing since sliced bread. Figure out who they are. Go be their fans.
Yeah, and send them the links to your website, your fan site.
Exactly.
All right. Well, James, how should everybody get in contact with you?
Oh, I've got a newsletter for employer brand stuff, so it's free if you love employer brand thinking and talking. Employerbrandheadlines.substack.com or employerbrand.news. They both get you the same spot. Sign up. It's free, and you'll get a little smarter about employer brand, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, James, thanks so much for your time this morning, and look forward to reconnecting in the future.
It's a blast, man. Take care.
You too.